Any questions from the audience? Yes, please. Could you use the microphone, please? Is it turned?
Now it's on. My question is regarding the facilities at BFE, since we're no longer there, and the community center at Grant Circle. We used to have a lot of, I guess you say, unit activities there, family activities. Now, living here in Heidelberg, will we be able to have such activities here? Because if you have something here, you do have to pay for catering at the Pavillion, and a lot of units cannot afford it. So when we had things at the special unit parties or family parties at Building 725, it was free, as long as you sign for it and clean it up, and you're done. So do we have anything like that here in Heidelberg?
Barry, you want to come up and answer that one? I'm not sure if the change to a community activity center provides relief on that.
You know, I'm Barry Patrick, Director of FMWR, and that was a great question. We are turning this building into a community activity center, and there will be various pricing levels from nominal, minimal fees for a room to do a Cub Scout graduation here to an event like what you described, to a full catering service. So we'll have a very large menu. It would include, if you wanted to come in and set up tables and chairs in a room, there'd be little to no cost to you to do those events. We will also allow under the community activities format, if it's not a catered event through us and you want to bring food into your event, you'll be able to do that.
Okay. On that same note, regarding the Building 725, they were able to keep it overnight, so they had lock-ins for the kids. Will we be able to do that also here?
At this particular building, probably not, but we have other buildings that those could be possibly done. We are changing the whole outlook of how we do programming in the community, and so we can take that on for more consideration. We probably would not, because of the things that are in this building and the inability to secure some of the things that are here, but yeah, we would always be open to look at those kinds of events. Okay.
Thank you, Barry. I have another question on Facebook. My wife is stationed in Heidelberg for 3 years, beginning in July. How is this possible if everything is closing? That's a great question that I address in every newcomer's brief as well. This particular soldier is stationed with the veterinary clinic. And the answer to the question is basically it's a unit decision on when they will start diverting their soldiers to the new location for that unit. So the veterinary clinic is an example of where it makes perfect sense that the soldier would continue to be assigned here to Heidelberg, because Patrick Henry Village does not have to be fully closed until 2015. The veterinary clinic, I'm sure, will close prior to that time. I think we have a scheduled plan for it to close sometime in 2014. But clearly, this soldier can get 2 years of time here in Heidelberg. And then, since that veterinary clinic is closing, that unit does not know yet where the soldier will transfer, if they'll only do a 2-year tour or if they'll transfer to another veterinary clinic here in Europe. Now, the situation is different for units that are closer to their movement timeline. So if, you know, it's the 214th Aviation, if it's USAG, then they're in that close time period on making a call on when should we start diverting incoming soldiers from Heidelberg so they don't come in and in process here and they go to Wiesbaden, for example. And again, that is the unit decision based on their mission. And really what I tell all the soldiers and the families who attend the newcomers brief is please get with your first sergeant and commander and find out what the plan is for you and your unit on when you're moving, because they've got to make that call on what the mission dictates. Some of the units like USAG, may make decisions to put people forward into Wiesbaden sooner. USAG has made that decision on several people. It's at this point being determined by the staff primary that soldier belongs to, and they are running a bus service and running split base operations. So the bus runs the people who have been forward stationed in Wiesbaden back here to Heidelberg for work each day. Come this summer, they'll be running that bus in reverse because the new USAG headquarters will be established there in Wiesbaden, and they will have workers from Heidelberg who are commuting on that bus service up to Wiesbaden. So it's really very unit specific, and I know some of the units have not made that call yet on when that end date is, that from this point forward all soldiers will be assigned to the new location. Any more questions from the audience? Well, it's very good that we're doing this streaming through Facebook then, because we're getting lots of questions from Facebook. This question, also from Facebook, is when will the schools in Heidelberg close? I'll say a little bit, and then I would ask probably either Jim or Kevin to come up and just talk a little bit about it. But again, this is an area where we're in that realm of think, not know. Okay, what we do know is the Heidelberg High School, which Mr. Kevin Brewer's the principal for, will close at the end of the 2012-13 school year, because Mark Twain Village will close September of 2013. So come the end of that school year, you will no longer have a separate Heidelberg High School. What we don't know is what will happen as far as elementary, middle school, and for high school students, what the configuration of the schools here in Heidelberg will be in that 2013 to 14 school year. It'll be based on enrollment. But I go back to what I said previously about, we know it will not look like it does today. Okay, there will not be a separate high school. We think, and I think, Jim and Kevin, you can tell me if it's otherwise, but I think based on our current projections, we do not think we'll be running a high school that school year here in Heidelberg. We may not run any schools if the enrollment is not high enough, and we really won't know that until spring of 2013 when the enrollments are done for those who remain. But I don't want people to fool themselves into thinking that you're going to have a robust curriculum with the same type of setup that you have today in Heidelberg. We know based on the projections that best case we would have a combined type school situation. And again, that curriculum could not be as robust and the activities as robust as it is today. Jim or Kevin, is there anything you would like to add from that, from what you think? I know, again, none of us know at this point for sure.
Jim Rumling, the schools liaison. As I said earlier, the command group as well as the schools superintendent, Frank Rail, are working very, very closely together. And I think an important aspect of that joint work is the recognition that we really don't know what exactly we're going to have in the way of numbers in June 2013, let alone September 2013. So consequently, it's very important that we recognize that we have to build a great deal of flexibility into our out-year planning. There are a variety of options on the table for how we would address future educational opportunities. Again, reiterating what Colonel DeCoster just said, they are not going to look anything like they do today. However, there are options on the table, there are plans on the table, and what I would encourage everyone to do who thinks that they will be affected by situations like the veterinarian that Colonel DeCoster just read a comment from, if you believe that you will be here in the 13-14 time frame, I would encourage you to contact me personally for a consultation on what the opportunities or possible opportunities will be so that you can do planning at this point for your child's education in the 13, 14, and beyond years. Sir?
Thank you, Jim. Again, on the schools, what I would encourage families to do is think about what is most important to you from the standpoint of your student. And I say this from having seen several exception to policy requests now, and from just the standpoint of being a parent myself with 2 children in Dodd schools. What you got to consider as you look at this, the Army has this program for seniors, stabilizing seniors in high school. I would ask you not to just blindly say, well, I'm going to have a senior in high school that 2013-14 calendar year, so I need to stabilize my family here for that year. If you are interested in homeschooling or international schools, that's a good approach to take. But you have no guarantee that there will be a Dodds High School like there is today here in Heidelberg. So if your intent is to stabilize that senior in a Dodds school, you're not going to get that same experience by stabilizing them here in that 2013-14 school year. Okay, same thinking with other children. If there are certain activities that are very important to you for your child's development, you may want to think about moving to the follow-on assignment as soon as you can rather than remaining through that 2013-14 year. Whether it's Heidelberg Sea Lion swimming, whatever the thing is that is most important to you and your family, you've got to realize that some of those activities, some of those services will just not be available. We will not have as robust activities. That last year, 2013-14, is really the last year we can even entertain having, I think, a Dodds program here at all. Because the numbers after that are essentially just the closure team turning over the final facilities through the end of 2014, beginning of 2015 to the German government. Okay, we have another question. This one is, I would like to know the plan for soldiers who are due to DEROS in less than 12 months that are forced to move from BFV. So I'm assuming a little into this question. I think what the question is oriented on, and certainly they can quickly tell us in Facebook if I don't get it right. But I think they're saying somebody who has a DEROS beyond September of 2012, but it's less than a year, so you wouldn't get the full year in the new house before you would PCS somewhere else. And that's really where I would ask for the unit's help working with the soldier and their family on what makes sense. So if it's a situation where the soldier's just going to have a few months after September, we need the unit's help in looking at curtailments on those soldiers. Okay, and you can work with our military personnel division at the Community Support Center for the help you need to do the right requests to curtail a soldier, cut their tour here in Europe short, so that we don't put them in a position where we're going to have to move them somewhere here into PHV, and then 3 to 6 months later, they're moving yet again on a PCS assignment, or they are ETSing out of the Army, from a location that they've had to move all of a sudden. If they are moving with the unit, but the unit move is a little bit later than planned, then again, you have to look at what makes sense. If they're going to be extended to move with the unit, like they belong to the confinement facility, and you intend to keep them longer to be part of the new facility in Sembach, do the extension paperwork. If they're not going to be part of that unit move, again, think about a curtailment, okay? Because we want to minimize the inconvenience to families like I think this soldier is getting after, which is, hey, I've only got like 3 months left, maybe 4 or 5 months left after that September date. So the units can help us modify the soldier's DROs in order to accommodate that move out of Ben Franklin Village to where they're going to end up, rather than doing 2 moves in less than a year. Any questions from the audience? You're too easy a crowd. I know you must have some questions for me, right? Okay, this is another live stream chat question. What happens to the PX? Okay, that's kind of a general question. I would tell you we have a different answer for Mannheim and then a different answer for Heidelberg. I'll say a little bit, and then Mark, if you've got more to add, you can come up and expound on it. But the Mannheim exchange will close shortly before we close Ben Franklin Village. So I think we have it slated, is it August? August of 2012 is when the Mannheim exchange will close. For the Heidelberg exchange that's over at the community shopping center, I think we currently have a proposed time in 2014. Okay, 31 August 2014. That one I tell you could change. Again, this is one of those that we think that will be the date now, but as any of our projections get more fidelity, if we have fewer and fewer customers and AFES has fewer employees, then the possibility exists that we would close that exchange earlier and just increase the selection and the types of things that we carry in the shop at here on Patrick Henry Village, because Patrick Henry Village will really be our final resting place here in Heidelberg until the end of the closures. So best we know right now, August of 2014, but I tell you, it could slip sooner based on how quickly folks are leaving and what's required to provide for the needs of the community. Anything to add on that, Mark? Okay. This next question is, what is the possibility in the morning of having crossing guards by the main Burger King gate when kids are walking to school? I think I see Major Frazier back there, our Provost Marshal, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I have seen our MPs out there doing that. Maybe, Major Frazier, you could come up and explain what we are doing at that Burger King gate, because I know it is a location that we have a lot of traffic coming in and out at the same time that the children are going to school.
Afternoon, I'm Major Frazier, the Provost Marshal. If you come on Patrick Henry Village through the Burger King ACP, that is the busiest intersection on Patrick Henry Village. So we made a decision with the previous garrison commander that he would like MPs out there to direct traffic. Also, we do stop traffic when we're letting the buses go off the installation in the morning and off the installation in the afternoon. If a student is walking to school, we stop traffic so that the students can get to and fro, back and forth. So that's why we have an MP out there. If you look at Army regulation, the Office of the Provost Marshal General directs that we do not have an MP out there, but because of risks, we just chose to do an exceptional policy to post an MP out there in the mornings and afternoons. I do believe I answered.
Thank you. Okay, these next two questions I would ask Lieutenant Colonel Smith to come up and help us address. The first is, when is the medical facility in Heidelberg closing?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Smith, the commander of the Coleman Troop Medical Clinic. As far as the Heidelberg medical activity, it will case its colors to the best of our knowledge as we think now in the summer, this summer of 2012. The Heidelberg Clinic will not go away at that time. At that time, I will take command of the Heidelberg Clinic, and the clinic will remain on Nachrichten Kaserne till on or about summer of 13. We will transition, as we downsize, we will transition our care to Patrick Henry Village. We want to be off of Nachrichten Kaserne, as we see now, by summer to September of 2013.
Okay, and we've got one more question related to the medical community. I'd also like to say, just to expound on Lieutenant Colonel Smith's answer, we are in our master plan for Patrick Henry Village looking at where we're going to put this clinic on Patrick Henry Village once Nachrichten Kaserne closes. We're looking at several options, one of which includes consolidating it with the dental facility. But again, Patrick Henry Village is going to be our last point where we're collapsing services down into. So we will provide those medical services out of Patrick Henry that are needed by the community once Nachrichten Kaserne closes. It's just not cost effective for us to keep Nachrichten, that whole Kaserne, open beyond 2013 once ERMC leaves and the dental command, the 30th Med Brigade won't be there anymore. So it just makes more sense to consolidate down into Patrick Henry Village. The second question is, could the MEDAC representative explain recent policy change as far as appointments for DoD civilians? Booking requirements for appointments. Where are policy changes located?
Yes, sir. And again, I would like to just say that Colonel Rainey, the Deputy Commander for Clinical Services, is here from the Heidelberg Medical Activity. So, sir, if there are any other information that you know as far as the movements and stuff, please feel free to correct me if I spoke.
Okay, let me clarify on the policy change. First of all, it's not a change to policy. We're directed by Army regulation in terms of what our priorities are in terms of care. You know, our first priorities are active duty soldiers and their family members. After that, it's our enrolled population. In terms of here in Europe, it's TRICARE Plus, which is primarily retirees enrolled as part of our program. And then the third category is, here in Europe, it's space available care for DoD employees. So there's been no change in our policy. However, because of that space available and our downsizing, we've seen a decrease in our ability to have space to care for our DoD employees. As of last July, or last summer, that's when we started to see it the most. And the biggest impact was in our pediatric clinic. We had a nadir in terms of the number of pediatricians we had available, so that was the issue last summer. We had a pediatrician return from deployment. Those numbers increased just a bit, but now as we move towards closure, just as the rest of the community moves towards closure, many of our staff, our nurses, our doctors, our other providers, they are taking jobs elsewhere. And as they take jobs elsewhere, the space available continues to decrease. So we go back and we stay with the priorities as directed by the Army of primary access for active duty soldiers and family members, and then second to other enrollees.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Smith and Colonel Rainey. Any questions from the audience?
Yes, sir. Thanks for the update on the AVs in Mannheim. Is there any way we can get an update on the commissary closure dates for Mannheim?
I believe the commissary in Mannheim we also have slated for an August 2014 closure date. Is that for Mannheim? Or August 2012, not 2014. I stand corrected, 2012 of August. Now, they are, though, reducing the selection there in the Mannheim commissary, as I'm sure you've noticed. We held off on doing that until after the holidays, but now they're going to reduce that selection as they go to be more in line with the number of community members that use that commissary. We'll still have the Heidelberg commissary with full hours, as Ms. Ludington briefed, that you can also come to, especially on the days that the commissary is closed, Monday and Tuesday there in Mannheim. But it'll close in August of 2012 as well. Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Good, because we seem to have a lull in our Facebook questions.
When is a projected date that Wiesbaden will have adequate facilities, housing, schools for the families moving in?
This will fall into the category of I think, I don't know. And I would ask you to also ask this question on the 16th of February when Wiesbaden comes down, and we will ask Wiesbaden as well and put it in our Herald Post and on our BW Now site. But I think in my discussions with U.S. Army Garrison Wiesbaden, they will have adequate housing as of this summer. They do have a new housing area that's been built there contiguous with the airfield. They will have sufficient housing to meet the USAR policy on post, which is all key and essential personnel, all E4s and below, and then 10% of every other rank that can be housed on post. And they've done the right planning and the right military construction and building to support that. The remainder of the folks, just like here in Heidelberg, will live off post, and they are doing the canvassing of the community there to make sure that there are sufficient off-post quarters available through the Ahern site that you can go to on the web, and also through the housing relocation folks in the housing office in Wiesbaden. Okay, that's what I think. That's what, in my discussions with Wiesbaden, I've been told. But again, if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, 16th of February, Colonel Karstens, the garrison commander for Wiesbaden, will be down here along with USAR, co-hosting that community event where Wiesbaden welcomes the USAR Main Body 1. And that also will be on TV and live streaming for Facebook so that our community can ask those types of questions of the Wiesbaden folks. Did I answer your question? Okay.